Greetings everyone and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jairus, and with me always is the guy who highlights all of my notes, Lightning Dragon.
Hey, I'm trying to make an effort so that I don't forget.
He's currently highlighting my notes in the Google Docs.
We were waiting because audio reasons, and I'm like, oh, this is a good opportunity for me to come in here and edit this really quick so I don't forget.
He's changing all the colors. Stop it.
No, I was just trying to find the correct highlight thing, and red was awful. It was hard to see.
Before we get into this week's Star Citizen news, there's been a lot of new subscribers to this channel thanks to Lex's video, and I hope partially because of the DCS content we're putting out. I kept hearing over time, people keep saying, you just want DCS in space. And basically, I wanted to answer the question, so I decided that I was going to download the free version of DCS and just give it a whirl. Well, of course, I'm well past the free version now, and I've actually become rather addicted to the game. And the large part of the inspiration was also Lex, who made that great video. When he saw that the F-18 Hornet was coming out, having flown it, he said, hey, let's play some DCS, and so I decided just to go ahead and go for it. It's been a real eye-opening experience, and I have to say, the game is just, every plane in itself is just amazing. The amount of depth and detail, the fact that you can spend so much time on one plane. Anyway, so I just wanted to welcome all new subscribers. I understand that everyone may not stay due to the fact that they may be only looking for DCS content. I totally get that. But thanks for checking out the channel in case you don't stay. So let's jump into this week's Star Citizen news.
Or what little there is.
We are in the back 9 of the Evocati testing, so I would expect that we would see it going to the PTU either this week or early next. Because some of the features were pushed back, I would expect this to be a shorter Evocati run. The forums are still on fire this week about the agent smithing situation, so Lando came out and clarified it on Reverse the Verse. Basically what he said is that when he had answered the question on the Calling All Devs, what he was trying to say is that you won't be able to teleport your character directly into the body of a particular NPC. Now, the idea of remote controlling an NPC to join your friends, an NPC that's on their crew, is still very much alive and well. Now, this is a very important mechanic for the health of the game. Capital ships in some way can be considered kind of like raids in World of Warcraft. I remember back when I played Nox Ramus 40, that it could take 2 to 3 hours to get all the people together, get all the stuff you needed together, and then go. In fact, that raid would often take 2 days. You'd split it up into 2 4 to 6 hour runs. So those kind of events, it's very important to get together people quickly to do what you need to do. And there were a lot of people I know who have large capital ships that were really worried about this, but I'm glad it's still on the table, and I bet they are too. Now, while Around the Verse this week continued to cover additional guns and more guns, the main focus of Around the Verse and Reverse the Verse was, of course, the Drake Vulture. The Drake Vulture is kind of the brother to the Prospector, where the Prospector does small-scale mining, the Vulture does small-scale salvaging. It is a one-man ship, a specialty ship, designed to do this one function and this one function only. Now, some people were concerned that there are too many specialty ships coming out, and that's going to basically cause a break to the promise of allowing modularity or more universal use on a ship, but I don't think that's going to be a real issue. There's always specialty ships out there. I mean, that's like being concerned that, for example, a Hornet, that pretty much has one function. Yes, it can have a little cargo case in it, but let's face it, the Hornet is a fighter. That's what it is. It's a specialty ship. And you're always going to see specialty ships out there that are made to do something and do something better than anything else. It doesn't mean that you can't do similar tasks in other ships. For example, you could take a Cutlass out and do hand salvaging and then take the cargo back into the ship. You're salvaging with a Cutlass. It's just not as efficient. Of course, EVE Online had made a funny little post here because it was pointed out that the Vulture looked amazingly like their Venture. And of course, this is, pretty true. But then again, the Venture looks a lot like, in some degrees, a Combine. And this is because recently, CIG has been developing ships with the idea of function that dictates the form, which is much, much different than what they did when they first started. This latest line of industrial ships seems to be following that pattern, and I'm glad to see it. Now, looking at the arms on the front of the Vulture, it got me thinking. Since the Caterpillar is modular, and has those what used to be guns on the front of it that are now basically just these weird bumper arms, wouldn't it be interesting if those arm attachments could be used to hook up additional things, like, for example, a Vulture-like module, where you would attach it to the front of the ship, and it would turn the Caterpillar into a refining center. Just kind of the next step up, more cargo space. But that's probably asking for a bit too much right now, so maybe way down the road. Some details about the Vulture. It is a one-person craft with a length of about 33 meters, a beam of 16 meters, height of 9 meters, a mass of 114,591, speed of 165 with 24 fixed thrusters, 2 small shield generators, and 2 weapons that are still to be determined. The Warbond version is $120, and the credit version is $140 with non-LTI 6-month insurance. All these stats, though, they're not set in stone, and as we all know, everything changes, and the ship stats page is out of date, so I'm not going to compare it to anything.
That's not what I wrote.
Why did you read what you wrote?
Because CIG is bad and they should feel bad.
There you go. He said it, not me.
So I was looking at the ship spec page, and it's 9 months out of date. But I was just kind of curiously looking at, well, what's a similar sized craft to this? And the Freelancer is slightly bigger than this, and I think it's 20 or more dollars cheaper.
Yeah,
depending on which variant you get.
Yeah.
To me, a ship that is just designed for one person and can only do one thing, granted, it's going to do that one thing really good, this price just seems a bit excessive. I mean, if it was, let's say, 90, it's a weird number, you know, we're going to mess with the psychology of the brain here, which is basically almost 100. If it was like 90 or something, I'd be like, yeah, that's probably a pretty good price, because your brain just thinks that, oh, it's not a triple digit number, therefore it's cheaper, even though it's just a difference of $30. And my reasoning by that is purely because it's one person and it can do one thing.
No, I totally understand. That's just a different perspective, but yeah, I mean, ship prices have gone up. On the other side of that coin, CIG did say years ago that as the game gets closer and closer to being a viable or released product, that ship prices would continue to increase. Though honestly, I think that shoots them in the foot. I think you sell more ships, overall you make more money if more people buy the ship because the ship is cheaper.
That's not even up to debate. I don't remember what ship it was, but many months ago, there was a ship that came out, and pretty much everyone, more than just me, because I always say that their ships are overpriced, but pretty much everyone in the Star Citizen universe agreed, or community, agreed the ship was overpriced. And when you went and looked back at all the different ship sales, all the big huge sales they do, because you had a running tally of like 3 or 4 of their big sales, you said they made a couple million less on this one huge ship sale because of the nature of that ship and the pricing point. And I believe it was one of the more expensive capital ships, as opposed to like when they were selling like some fighters or some midline ships. They were like actually millions of dollars less during a huge sale. It was rather disappointing.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So it's just one of those things that, you had to meet. There's always a price matrix, and let's not get into an economic lesson here, but sometimes they step past the point, and I do agree with that. And this ship, I think that maybe, considering its function, like you consider like an Avenger, maybe like 90 would have been better. 90 would have been more reasonable, and more people probably would have snagged it at that, and probably would have made more money overall.
Now, if they change the ship, and it gets a general purpose cargo area that's more than just salvage, I could see the price being justified. But I mean, I'm talking about like, a co-pilot with like some automated guns, because turrets are awful. Don't even think about putting turrets. And then, because like with the Starfarer, it is the top of the line, unless they make something huge, fuel ship. That's what its job is. But it still has a very, very large cargo hold, so you can do other things with it. So it's not just a fuel ship, where this is purely a salvage ship.
Yeah, in fact, the Starfarer, you can swap off those fuel containers eventually for cargo containers, and it can turn it pretty much into a pure cargo ship. Well, all that being said, let's go ahead and move into the Calling All Devs. Not too much going on here this week. There was a couple things that caught my eye, and let's get into them. Now, one of the questions that was asked was if there will be a ship buying or renting on a kiosk soon in the Persistent universe.
Short version, yes. Long
eventually.
Version, yeah, eventually. Long version, please let us convert our REC.
Yeah, basically, they want to do it around 3.3. But the big thing that came up is because right now it used to be that you could rent something with REC and bring it into the persistent universe. And you can't do that anymore. Now, as a longtime subscriber, I have almost 900,000, rec, and I'm sure that people out there have way more than that. And as people move further and further from Arena Commander, partially due to two factors: one, most people didn't back for Arena Commander; they backed for the persistent universe, and two, the flight model sucks. So we put those two things together. We have all this rec that's never going to be used for any reason whatsoever. So what I'm suggesting, and I'll leave a link down below, is kind of twofold. This is on the They're Calling All Devs question for the month of June. We should be allowed to convert our current rec into some form of UEC, even if it's a 1-to-4 ratio. And we should also be able to choose, as subscribers, either rec, UEC, or a combination of the both, like a split, allowing us to have more flexibility in taking those bonuses and moving them where we'd like to have them in the game.
Because that's the reason why we're playing the game right now, to help with testing and locking away ships for people that, don't spend hundreds of dollars on the game, but have, a subscription or whatever. It might be nice to let them, test the game for you.
So anyway, go ahead and check out that post. Vote it up, please, if you're interested in this concept. I'm sure a few of you out there have a lot of rec buildup and would like to do something with it. And the other question was, how is insurance time going to be calculated? Is it hours played, real time? Basically, the answer is it's going to be on a real-time clock to be consistent with all the other measurements they have in the game, dealing with real time as well. Now, the question is on that, is that only when you're online? Is it only when you're using the ship? That's something that I think they're either going to have to figure out, or was just left out of the question as an answer. I'm not exactly sure. But if it's only when you're using a ship, a 6-month insurance could last you years. And if it's when you're online, even then it could last you years, because most of us can't log on and play 24 hours a day for 6 months.
That'd be insane.
That would be insane. So you probably end up playing 2 or 3 hours a day, maybe over, and maybe like 3 times a week. So you'd burn up like a fourth of a day during the course of a week. And then, that 6-month insurance turns into a 2-year insurance.
I would imagine that it's based off of your in-game time. Because, if you, like in the real world, if you had, let's say you had 2 cars, right?
Yeah,
and you had to have insurance on both those cars, and you're not driving one of them, the insurance company is going to be like, oh, well, because you haven't been driving that car, don't worry, you don't have to pay for the insurance on that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So
I would agree with you normally, but this is CIG, so
yeah, it's very possible that it's based off of flight time, kind of like like an hour's clock on a machine or something.
Exactly.
But who knows? Because that sounds like them adding more fiddly bits to the game, and I don't want more fiddly bits. I just want them to make a working game.
Alright, and later this week on Thursday, we have part 2 of Lex's great tutorial on carrier operations for DCS. And on Saturday, some fun fly time with Lex and a bunch of other people, basically doing combat, formation flying, and also, before that a little bit in the video, my terrible attempts at night flying in an F-15.
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah,
you're the greatest pilot.
It is. It was amazing. Especially the part where the runway kept refusing to turn the lights on until I came down for a touch and go, and then I could see the runway. Alright everyone, well that's about it for this week's BlastCast. As I said, short show. There's not a lot going on, and this is always what we see during the time of a release to a new build. There'll be lots to talk about, lots of videos showing lots of different things once that NDA is lifted, and I can capture some fresh new footage. But outside of that, we will see you on the next one.
I thought you were going to say around the verse for a second there.
No.
That would have been so corny. Bye-bye, everybody.
The corn is real.